Ladies and gentlemen, we have yet another update in the chess cheating scandal, and that is the fact that chess.com has published the 72-page report. Now, I'm going to link it in the description. Again, you can read along with me for a second video in a row. I will take you through it. Now, it's not actually 72 pages. It is, but like 50 of those pages are graphs. So we will just go through them. It's about a 20-page report. It doesn't show us anything insanely new, but there's some tidbits in here that are very, very interesting, and that, again, if you come to me for the content on this, hopefully you will appreciate that we get into. Okay, so let's open up the Hans Niemann report. You can click the link in the description. You can follow along with me, and we will read the whole thing in its entirety. So this is pages 1 through 6 or so are the background. So over the last few weeks, the world has been following the major story regarding Hans Niemann. Now, the very first thing right here is that chess.com estimates that fewer than 0.14% of players on chess.com ever cheat. So chess.com has way more players than you and I could ever imagine. I think it's like millions and millions of games every day. That player who beat you that you got mad about, they're not cheating. But that's already kind of very interesting to me. Now, okay, here there's very important bullet points. We present evidence in this report that Hans likely cheated online much more than his public statements suggest. However, while Hans has had a record-setting and remarkable rise in rating and strength, in our view, there is a lack of concrete statistical evidence that he cheated in his game with Magnus or in any other over-the-board games. Any other. So that one, this one was a bit of a, I mean, I get it. I don't understand in terms of data science and legal stuff. Like, they said literally any other game. So it's not like even there was one game. It was, they're saying it. So maybe they just don't want to touch it at all. Maybe they have something that we don't know here, but again, they are not the all-knowing, all-seeing authority for this, so maybe they're just deferring to the people who are in charge of the investigation. We are presenting our findings here, and we'll cooperate with Fide for any further investigation. This is very interesting because a lot of you have been sending me videos to analyze of different people on YouTube doing different types of content, like breaking down the data science of it all and plotting. I don't want to do that. I'm not the legal team for any of this, so my job is not to present you the evidence, and then 24 hours that evidence gets potentially refuted. So that was a very interesting point. We were never pressured by Magnus or his team whatsoever to remove Hans from chess.com or revoke his invitation to the Global Championship, nor did we communicate with Magnus regarding our decisions on these issues before we made them. In fact, Magnus did not even know we were going to remove Hans until Hans went public with our private correspondence. We uninvited Hans from our major upcoming online event and revoked his access based on our experience with him in the past, growing suspicions among top players in our team about his rapid rise of play, and so on and so forth. Okay. This is all background. This is a timeline. You know all this. You can try to read, you know. Did Magnus tell us to close Hans's account on chess.com and revoke his invite? No, he did not. In fact, Magnus did not have any prior awareness of our decisions. So this is all, yeah, this all sort of makes sense. Does chess.com believe Hans cheated in his game OTB? Despite the public speculation, in our view, there is no direct evidence that proves Hans cheated in his game against Magnus, or proves that he cheated in over-the-board events in the past. This, again, I don't exactly know how this works, but like to me, in a bombshell report, that is a crazy sentence. Like now my head is spinning. Maybe there is a little bit of evidence, but it's not their authority to say whether. I don't know. That's the thing. I'm not sure how exactly this works. And statisticians and people who work in stats will say, oh, well, you know, you could say you have a lack of evidence, but it's just maybe you don't want the legal ramifications. I don't exactly know, but that to me was a wild sentence to read. But of note, we discuss how Hans is the fastest rising player in over-the-board chess, and there's a lot of graphs, yes, that show that. So, and yeah, they review their games in here, Hans's games over the board in here. If chess.com was not certain Hans cheated at the Singfield Cup, why did we take steps to revoke his invitation? So again, this is just basically why he was uninvited after the Magnus game, right? Like, that has been a question for many folks, and it's essentially not being able to ensure the integrity of the event, and that's sort of the answer. And it's, you know, You can read about it on your own. We felt delaying a decision would have, you know, yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit later. So I think that's basically it. This is sort of more background. Hans is cheating on chess.com. So yesterday's report already said everything here. This is essentially where it is. So chess.com describes his cheating in this chart. This was from yesterday's report that was sent to the Wall Street Journal. Literally the same graph, nothing crazy. Well, no, I mean, like the numbers themselves are crazy in the sporadic cheating against random people, taking breaks from cheating, then booting up and cheating again. What I don't understand is, yeah, he cheated in 100% of the games that he played. So there's a lot of theories out there for all these sophisticated cheating methods. This ain't it. You know what I mean? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to hit all the red flags, this is not such a sophisticated way of going about it. And then once again, here's Kenneth Reagan, the one who emailed, and he said, I certainly agree he cheated in 2015 and 2017 in the games. This is, so Ken Reagan says it's true. Roger, he has not cheated in a time period that I've quantified as since August 2020. Yeah. So, yes, there's a lot of games here against these players, and 25 and 2017, and so on. So Ken Reagan, this is the guy who Fide appointed. His methods are approved for anti-cheating, and he was the one that was saying Hans has not cheated over the board. So, now this is interesting. This is them providing complete evidence. In 2020, during a private call with Danny Wrench, Hans was informed his account was closed. And then they communicated in a real-time system. So Hans went live and basically created a new account. And then Hans didn't really send an email with any sort of admission to the, admitting to wrongdoing, but it sort of was implied, and they sort of let it go, I guess, because he was young, which maybe they shouldn't have done, but not everything is perfect in this situation. So he continued to acknowledge cheating. And yeah, I think essentially there was something in this article, I mean, in this report we'll basically get to, but it seemed like he was kind of like cheating to beef up his rating so that he could play the best players on the website, something like that, and he could stream it, and that way, with a super high rating, people would watch him play and they would be interested, and there was definitely some monetary incentive there. Okay, the next 4 or 5 pages are very important. So how cheat detection works, at least on chess.com. So, corroboration of potential foul play with anomalous performances often requires extensive analysis and collection of evidence through comparative analytics, factual investigation, a detailed examination of other evidence. The same is true when evaluating whether a top player is cheating in chess. So they compare moves to engine recommended, removing some moves in the opening and the endgame, focusing on key and critical moves like in critical positions, sharp positions. They discuss with a panel of trained analysts. They compare player past performance and known strength profile, and then performance of comparable peers, and then looking at statistical significance, looking at if there's behavioral factors like tabbing back and forth in your browser and so on, reviewing time usage. Okay? So it looks like it's a mix of algorithmic and human input, okay? And grandmaster input, right? Here they discuss the difference between, computer and human. So yeah, this is just more of a description of the difference between human and computer move. And then here's the best in class. To quote Hans himself, they have the best cheat detection in the world. So chess.com is attuned to recognizing different kinds of cheating. Newer players use an engine for every move they make. That's you. Other players, especially those at Hans' level, are much more sophisticated, engage in selective cheating, using a chess engine to give advice only in key moments. And here they quote philosopher Lévi-Rozman. I think he's a French guy, I don't know. Top players only need to cheat 3 times in a game. Literally, top players know so much about the position. If you insinuate they might be better or worse. Right, this is basically just an overview. And there's like quotes here, including a very long one from Maxime Dlugy, which is ironic. So this is them describing sophisticated statistical methods and basically a strength score, okay? A strength score is a measurement of the similarity between the moves made by the player and the moves suggested as strongest moves by the computer. In a sense, it's the measure of the accuracy of the play. So on chess.com, that score is 0 to 150. A score of 150 is possible if you let Stockfish basically run to max depth every move, and make a move. However, generally, Stockfish will play, 125 to 150, maybe, because it doesn't always have an unlimited amount of time to move. And what they say is 100 is the score that they have for maximum in human chess players, okay? 90 is the highest score that we have seen in top players sustain in classical time control. So 100 is the highest, but 90 is really what they sustain in classical, okay? Which means that their strength score is probably something in the 70s and 80s. Generally, and it also depends what their FIDE rating is. Okay, a FIDE rated player will play slightly, differently depending on what their FIDE rating is in the strength score in chess.com. So, any player can have a strong games of chess, but the strength score can tell us if continued strong play is legitimate or beyond the realm of statistical probability. And rating plays no part in their strength score, as people can overperform or underperform. Yes. And that is different than what I just said. What I'm saying is, they just said they compare you to your peers. Okay, so if you're rating and they compare you to a bunch of other peers with similar FIDE ratings and you're a crazy anomaly, that's going to be slightly off the charts, right? They don't compare you for outliers. Some of you are like, oh, I played a 94% game and I'm going to get banned. No, you're not that important. I mean, you are to me, not to the fair play team. All right, you are important. But you're not important enough to ban for one very good chess game. Don't worry about that. But a lot of people get nervous about that. Now, this is crazy. So when Hans admitted to cheating in chess.com in 2020, he had an IM title with a GM norm. And he had a strength score of 85.5 in 3-minute games, which is ridiculous. Okay? He confirmed he was cheating. And look at this table. These are all anonymous confessed grandmasters on chess.com. Oh my God. Oh my God. Look at their FIDE ratings. Look at their, first of all, 103, bro. This guy did not cheat that well. He didn't cheat that well. He cheated way too obviously. Look at all these. And then Hans in the middle here with a strength score of 85.5. Higher than some, but lower than a bunch of other people who cheated. This is insane. Well, is it insane or should we have expected? This is what I mean. This is sort of going to bring light to all this. Is this really that insane? Are you shocked? Did you think no Grandmaster has ever cheated, right? That would kind of make sense, but online makes people do some crazy stuff. So maybe this is a step in the right direction. So, yeah, and there's a bit more description. Hans was given a benefit of the doubt. Once alerted, they do a thorough and skeptical review of the data. They begin a practical human-driven analysis of the data, the game, the time usage, where the algorithmic signals match up with each move. And when they finally close an account, they feel they've given the most fair possible review. They understand the weight of such a decision. So, one notable case on the list above was a FIDE top 100 player. That's crazy. This person competed in a single event featuring 10 total games. Their strength score alone was not necessarily enough to act, but indicated that there was the potential for cheating. Even considering the player's ELO of nearly 2,700, our expert team was able to discern the truth that this player was indeed selectively cheating using a chess engine, and it's an Exhibit C. We will take a look at that later. It's basically just emails. But essentially, that seemed like it was the green light and the confirmation that the fair play team knew what the F they were doing if they could successfully catch a 2,700 ELO player. Because that's sort of what we always say. Oh, if a 2,700, if a top 10 player cheated just couple of times in select games, it wouldn't be noticeable. But once, if maybe one time, it won't be noticeable. You do it 5, 10 times, especially close together, they're gonna get you, and that's the interesting thing here. So, and it seems like they absolutely know what they're doing. So this is just a little bit more background. And cheating in an over-the-board setting is harder than cheating online. It has not stopped many from trying. Hand signals from a nearby coach. Hidden device in a shoe, wire, or buzzer taped to the body. Or in a body, am I right? Detect cheating in over-the-board play will require a mixture of security measures and algorithmic detection, neither of which are currently happening up to the standard to make conclusive determinations. We continue to encourage greater attention to considering how to prevent and police OTB cheating and hope to be part of devising solutions. Makes sense. Okay. The over-the-board rise. Okay, this is going to be the very interesting part. They are comparing him to Firouzja, who had the crazy rise. Keimer, who is currently on the rise. Erigaisi, who is on the rise. These three people have had unbelievable rises. So, while we do not doubt Hans is a talented player, we note his results are statistically extraordinary. Okay. Between 2014 and 22, Hans' strength increased from 67.8 to 90.90, which is the highest weighted yearly gain. Ali Reza, who had a monster rise, is down here. Hans is consistently above many contemporaries in strength increases, and though he has only recently shown the same caliber of play. Likewise, as set forth in figures A and B below, Hans had the biggest increase in his score over time compared to his peers when considering all their known classical over-the-board games from 11 to 19. So this is a chart of the other prodigies of the world from 2014 to 2022. Hans is at the top. Hans is also at the top here. This was in the article. It's like Bobby Fischer. It's basically your over-the-board strength improvement from ages 11 to 19.25. And Magnus is 4th. Bobby is 2nd, right? So that's right. Here he's number 1. Strength gain during the first 2.75 years after achieving this ELO rating. Prague is here, but he also, I guess he's young, so he did it really quickly. But it's like Firouzja, Magnus. You can read all this. I know you can't see it right now, maybe, but here's Hans. Number 2. And this pink line is Hans. So this is chess.com, no disrespect. I get what we were going for here, but I mean, my goodness, does this look like a toddler scribbled with crayons? This is the years since you've achieved 2,500. And this is your rating. So Hans has had the least amount of years since achieving 2,500. And his rise is already up here. Firouzja's here. So Firouzja was 2,500 here. Still took him over 2 years. It took Hans under 2 years, right? And you can see the list. So time between achieving 25 and 2,700. Gray indicates that player has yet to achieve 2,700 OTB. Hans is down here. So here he's the lowest. He's got the lowest time between 25 and 2,700. Compared to some of his peers, right? So this is like, yes, this is crazy. This is a big rise. And they also discuss from 2016 to 2018, right here, he plateaued. In 297 games, he plateaued for 2.5 years. And fluctuated between 20... I think I played him around here. Yeah, I played him November 2016. Yeah, that's when I played him. I played him in Texas, I believe. Yeah. He then gained 89 points in August to September before settling into a new plateau from September. And then, yes, there was a little bit of a plateau here, I guess. And then all of a sudden, you know, it goes bananas, right? So rating by age, here's Hans kind of at the bottom and then rising very quickly to the top. So he was kind of low rated compared to everybody else. And now suddenly he's bulldozing and getting in there. ELO changed by age. Let me try to find Hans Niemann again. He's the pink one. Age here. Lower, 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 lower. Now he's shooting up and he's slowly catching all the other guys. And he's probably caught them. So this is basically just, you know, a question of his growth. Not his games, but his growth. Okay? So when he was 15, 16, and 17, Hans had ratings of 2313, 2460, and 2465. Conventional wisdom is that if you are not GM by 14, it's unlikely you can reach the top levels. But that's obviously not the case here, right? So Fischer, Kasparov, Carlsen were top 5, and most top 5 players are grandmasters by 15. Now, yeah, the games themselves. So chess.com's cheat detection is tuned to catch cheating and are faster online time controls. We studied Hans' OTB play using the same statistical tools and compared him to his peers, given his outstanding rise in strength. So how does Hans compare to other players? We analyze all OTB games, and Hans is ranked 6. And this is where it starts to get very interesting for me. He's ranked 6 out of 13. Arjun Erigaisi, Bogdan Deak, Vincent Keimer, Magnus Carlsen, Nihal Sarin have better aggregate strength scores. And frankly, it's sort of right in the middle. It's not like it's a crazy outlier. So does he have an unusually shaped plot of games? They're going to show you that at the end. We'll look at that. Basically, what they say here is a player playing at 2 different levels will have 2 lumps, not an even distribution. Okay? And also there's something called a step function, which is when you like jump up in strength. Okay? Chess.com data does not necessarily indicate a stepwise progression that you might see if a player suddenly went from one level to another. They compared it to his peers. We'll look at that in the end. Has Hans played an unusual high number of near-perfect games? Haven't you guys been seeing this? I've seen this reported in videos. I've seen like people doing the whole chess-based thing. Oh, he has a lot of engine correlation games. There's been some analysis posted online. We have carefully analyzed many other presentations and found online that claim to have found potential evidence of cheating, including asserting that he's played 100% games. We have concluded that the methodology and the underlying tools used in those analyses do not meet our standard. Wow. Therefore, chess.com gathered all his games from 2020 against other 2,500 rated players. So not that he's even beating up weaklings. They removed any games they determined lacked sufficient reasonable measurable observations like book moves and endgame moves. Look at this. Look at this. He's all the way down here. It's worse than Gukesh, Keimer, Firouzja, Erigaisi, Deak, Yesipenko, Nihal Sarin, Neudirbeck, Magnus Carlsen. Okay. All right. So they cannot definitively prove that his rise in strength is entirely natural, but they found no indication in the game data to suggest otherwise. While some have suggested a move-by-move analysis by humans may surface some oddities in move choice or analysis, there is nothing in our statistical investigation to raise any red flags regarding his... That's a crazy sentence to read right now. Oh my goodness. And then they reviewed his events in detail. So they're publicly sharing a subset of data regarding his individual events, that ones that should be highlighted more. We also want to highlight we do not have access to time usage data, which is something we inherently have for all online games, right? So here is a description of the Singfield Cup game. This is not tremendously important. It's basically a description of the opening, because there was this question that Hans analyzed that it was a miracle that he had prepared specifically for the opening. And there's an important moment here where if you rewatch his interview with Alejandro, on move 13, Hans in the game after defeating Magnus Carlsen suggests a move that just loses the game on the spot. It's basically like he shows up to the analysis and he says a move at some moment and and it's losing. This is what they're describing. And it was led to criticism by other top chess players, and who basically said, how could you so easily outplay Magnus and hang up bishop in one move in the analysis afterward, right? So, and then here is a description of Hans's playing strength score in the first 3 rounds, including beating Shakhriyar Mamedyarov and Magnus Carlsen, and afterward. So the drop-off is the largest of any player. Firouzja, on the other hand, turned it up. He turned it up after the first 3 rounds. And round 4, he played Hans, and he held a crazy game defensively. Yeah, this was I mean, this was deliberated. This was it because of the anti-cheat measures, or because of the stress, or because, right? So now you could theoretically debate, you know, everything. So, and this is Magnus discussing returning to Norway and how Hans was acting during the game. So the conclusion is, after Hans beat Magnus and withdrew from the Singfield Cup, we remove Hans from Chess.com's upcoming GCC. Wait, that's not even the name of the event. It's CGC. Guys. Oh my goodness. And withdrew his access to the site until we could conduct further review. Magnus's actions prompted us to reassess, did not talk with us in advance for our decisions. We understand the timing of our email. Hans publicizing of it may have led a number of people in the chess community to believe that Chess.com knew he was cheating over the board, or was under pressure from Magnus, or had new evidence indicating he was cheating. The much less interesting truth is that none of it is true. While there are many remarkable signals and unusual things in his path as a player, and while some games' behaviors and actions are hard to understand, Chess.com is unaware of any concrete evidence proving that Hans is cheating over the board, or has ever cheated over the board. Chess.com has historically not been involved in over-the-board or classical fair play decisions, and they do not run classical events. Yeah. We want the best for Hans, we want the best for Magnus, the best for chess, stability, fairness, and joy in the chess community, not turbulence, conspiracy, and accusations. Now, the rest of this is graphs. We will scroll through it in a matter of minutes. Basically, I will describe these to you. This is the Hans Niemann strength score distribution per game. A decent amount of games in the high 80s. A lot of his peers have various spikes as well, just a handful of games that are played very accurately and then a little bit lower. The 2 lump thing, remember they brought that up, so, but Jeffrey's 2 lumps are in the 70s, which Jeffrey got to raise that accuracy a little bit. Again, there's nothing, I cannot read any of this and you know, draw conclusions, but I'm showing you this. You know, Erigaisi has certain distributions that, according to chess.com, Magnus, baby, look at this. Look how many games he plays at 100%. What a Chad. Anyway, the point is that what chess.com describes as important things to look out for in terms of getting a distribution that could be suspicious, Hans doesn't actually match those in some of these. And this is basically comparing him to his peers. There was a couple of things in here. Right, so this is strength by age, right? So 11 to 19. Very sharp rise toward the end between 17, 18, and 19. And I think what you're going to see here is the most common thing as a teenager is to stabilize when you get to the Super GM level. So a lot of guys get to 2680, 2700, 2720. They don't keep going. And I think what is being said here is that Hans's strength is only increasing. We're about to see if he plateaus at 2700 because he's 2700 right now. But this is essentially what this is saying, right? So Noisierbeck is kind of stable. Magnus stabilized when he was 18, 19. He was also kind of like the GOAT already. Deak is slowly growing. Erigaisi is the strangest one. I mean, this just looks like you riding on a I don't know, little surfboard here. Like he's also going up. Yesipenko, unfortunately, is on the decline a little bit. We hope to see him bounce back. Firouzja also stabilized, but he also is 2800. That's the thing. He's 2800. So, and just doesn't even have 3 years because he's so young. Yeah, so, you know, this is all of the exhibit. We're already on page 50. Literally, I'm just scrolling here. We're on page 50. These are the tournaments that chess.com highlighted need to be dived into deeper. Philadelphia International, North American Youth Chess Championship, the Charlotte Chess Tournament, World Open, Philly International, and the Capablanca Memorial in Cuba that he played. And there were some games in there that people said, oh, he played like perfectly, so chess.com is saying it's not up to us. And this is all emails. So this is literally like 17 pages of different emails. And I think and this is Danny's letter to Hans. This is not something I need to bring up here, but this is something, and this is all emails. So the whole like last part of this report is basically grandmasters admitting to wrongdoing. And I think there was a moment somewhere here where like the Super GM confesses, hello, I don't understand what this is all about. I never violated any rule. And then a little bit later, the same individual, I fully cooperate. I only used help in a few games, not because I wanted to win a prize, but because I was bored and just wanted to see how good your team is. So it's kind of disturbing to read some of these correspondences from like top players who are just like, yeah, I like cheated, but only for 5 games. I just wanted to see how good your team was. You know what I mean? And I apologize for my, isn't that insane? Isn't that crazy? So folks, like I said, this hasn't taught us a tremendous amount of new information, but it is very interesting, and I don't exactly know where we go from here. The big question is it not chess.com's authority? So I had this thought. I was like, what if the data was crazy? What if Hans had the fastest rise of anybody and the highest percentage of the games? Would chess.com then have said there is enough evidence, or would they have not, because they are not the pointed to authority on this? If Fide appointed the fair play team of chess.com, like say their team of data scientists, would they say, I don't know? That's the thing. I'm really not sure. Is it better to err on the side of not completely ending someone's career, especially for the over-the-board stuff? Perhaps. It seems like from all the data that we've been presented, that after August 11, 2020, which was the last time Hans was reported for cheating, he stopped. And he obviously was good enough of a player already, like 28,2,900 Blitz, that his new account, which is wide open, right? It's still open. Hans on Twitch, I think this is the account. That one's not closed. Ken Reagan saying it looks like he stopped cheating. So it looks like he actually also trained a lot. It looks like he loves chess. It does look like he's training a lot. And it looks like when he does play these games over the board, there's not enough statistical evidence to say that there is wrongdoing over the board. Guys, I am so confused. I am so confused. Is there still a chance? I don't know. I keep saying the words, I don't know. The truth is, I don't know. And some of you got mad at me in the last video. Like, you were like, well, he lied about cheating, and that was only the times he got caught. Imagine all the times that he's done it and he wasn't caught. No, listen, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I understand. I just don't know if we can make a final decision of suspension based on strictly the online games. And we're stuck in a catch-22. You have a lot of evidence. First of all, you have evidence that, he wasn't upfront about the cheating online. And now you have all this evidence online, which can still be denied, by the way. But I think in this case, we are sort of understanding that with chess.com's success rate in catching actual grandmasters, that it probably cannot be denied. And you have that with Over the Board, right? You have that with a sharp rise. You have that with the success in Over the Board after the online stuff. And you have some games. You have a sample size of games that people are debating are suspicious, not suspicious. That's sort of what we have. We don't have actually any, physical proof. Probably the only thing that can determine what's going to happen in the future is very, very strict security. And if he sustains the level of play or not, I don't know. This is kind of a miserable situation. I'm very glad I don't have to make the decisions. Trust me, I'm much happier here, sitting, talking to all of you. But this is what came out. This is the report. And I think also mistakes have been made. Certainly, I think mistakes have been made, and I think you would agree. I think the whole online CGC thing was unfortunate. I think it was unfortunate. I think I'm sure that in hindsight things would have gone a bit differently. Like maybe after the second or third time, Hans just would have been not allowed anymore to rejoin. But I think chess.com, and I just think the chess world in general for a long time has just been a bit too nice about all of it, right? Like everyone's sort of like, all right, somebody cheated online and that's kind of going to be the end of it. And then maybe we'll give them a chance, especially if they're really young, if they're like 16, 17. But they have done it differently. Originally, yes, I'm sure they're kicking themselves for not, but such is life. You know what I mean? Shit happens, as my mom liked to tell me when I was younger. And sometimes you just gotta you gotta roll with it, all right? And sometimes you gotta do what's best, even if you should have done it earlier. And in terms of the CGC, it's sort of it sucks, and but it is what it is. It's just the truth, and maybe for the future, if you've cheated 2 or 3 times, you're not gonna. That's it. You just immediately ruin your own chances for playing online again. And I think somewhere that needs to be like streamlined. That needs to be standardized. So I don't know if there's something like, well, if you're banned from one major website, you can't play on all the others. That's probably a bit ridiculous. But maybe if you're banned on one of them that has a cooperation with Fide, then you can't play in. I don't know. That's the report. That is the report. And the U.S. Championship starts today. Hans Niemann is going to be playing Over the Board in the U.S. Championship, so look forward to that. I think this is it for a while. I think this is it. I don't know what comes next. Probably the Fide report, but this is huge. I will see you in the next video. Get out of here.